setting up infinite turns, shutting down enemy commanders, and repeatedly casting Ancestral Recall. This is exactly what Loot, the Pathfinder, can accomplish with the right setup. Sure, 5 mana might seem a bit steep, but Loot more than makes up for it with 3 powerful abilities that let you outvalue your opponents. Even though Exhaust can only be used once per game, that restriction is easy to bypass if we return it to our hand or bounce it. The rest of the deck is packed with strong enter the battlefield creatures that synergize with our game plan, alongside a perfect suite of counter magic and removal to protect our furry friend. Let's see what this Furby can really do. Of course, we get paired against Ragavan right away. We mulligan to a second hand, and this one at least has Fury to deal with the little menace. Boom! Monkey down. That doesn't stop our opponent from playing more creatures, but at least I can copy theirs, create a treasure token, and get loot onto the battlefield a bit sooner. Unfortunately, they kill my blocker, and Arena of Glory gives the Ragavan haste, letting it come back with a vengeance. Naturally, I draw more lands, but I get greedy and set up a play to blink loot in the same turn. So I play the god first. My opponent drops another creature, and on my turn, I find a Time Warp, which I end up using as an overpriced Explore. Neoform suddenly looks interesting. I can copy their Goblin, use it to bounce their creature, and thanks to Tazza's ability, bounce their commander as well. They untap, kill my blocker, and of course, replay Ragavan, dropping me to 11 while also taking out my poor treasure token. I draw a land and somehow forget Loot has haste again, but I still manage to kill their commander once more and untap mine. After replaying their Goblin, I'm pleasantly surprised that Loot survives, letting me draw 3 cards right away. I also pick up an extra card with Pawn Profit and use a Serval land to check the top of my deck. Then I find Saiba Siphoner, and that's where things get crazy. If I pair it with Tazza, I can take infinite turns. For now, I blink Loot, kill their Goblin, and blink it again to untap it. They try to kill Loot with 2 removal spells, but I use Remand to force them to spend more mana. And they do. On my upkeep, I return Time Warp to my hand with Siphoner, fetch a land, play Time Walk, blink my Siphoner, return Time Warp to my hand again, replay it, play a land, attack, blink Siphoner again, and that's when they scoop. They start with a turn 1 Skrelv, and I play my trusty Llanowar Elves before passing the turn. Next, they drop Crashing Drawbridge, giving Kaalia haste, so I need to keep counter magic up for the next turn. They attack, I search for a land, play it, and pass. Instead of Kaalia, they play a Mind Stone and swing again. I finally draw a removal spell, so I try to kill Skrelv, but my opponent responds with Untimely Malfunction. I counter it with Memory Lapse, which luckily shuffles it away. Now I'm free to counter Kaalia, and as expected, my counter spell resolves. I untap, play a land, and manually tap my mana so I can keep both Lightning Bolt and Ancestral Recall up. And once again, I forget Loot can attack. How many more times do you think this will happen? Let me know in the comments. Now, surely they won't play Kaalia into Loot, right? Well, they do. I take care of her immediately. On my turn, I use Loot's Ancestral Recall ability to draw 3 more cards and create a doppelganger of Loot, potentially setting up another draw 3 next turn, and this time I remember to attack. They play the Mighty One Ring and draw a card, while I, naturally, draw 3 more. I untap, play a land, and drop a Signet, then cast Neoform on my Visionary, which I copy with Dualcaster Mage. What am I fetching? No idea. I just thought it would be fun for deck building. I end up copying Dualcaster Mage with another creature, copying Neoform again, bouncing their drawbridge, killing their mana rock, and of course attacking. At this point, my opponent is visibly frustrated and wipes the board. Loot, however, manages to deal 3 damage before dying. No worries. I replay Loot and battle through Arena's auto-tapper until I can finally attack again. They draw more cards, play a few more creatures, and at the end of the turn, I use Lightning Bolt to bring them down to 3. Then, I draw into another Lightning Bolt, and close out the game. This time, I'm running a more controlling version of the deck, with fewer creatures and more ramp spells. Turn 2, I play Rampant Growth for a land. My opponent untaps, plays a creature, and I follow up with Cultivate to ramp even further. They untap, play Amalia, and attack for 2. I play Loot immediately and attack for 4 while keeping Sink into Stupor or Lightning Bolt mana up. My opponent plays Speaker of the Heavens, and I decide to kill Amalia before it grows. Triggers resolve, and after attacking, they pass the turn. My plan is to play Tazza and keep part the Water Veil's mana up, but I don't have enough yet. Instead, I attack, draw 3 cards, and take an extra turn anyway. Unfortunately, they bounce my card, forcing me to discard. Worse still, they untap, play Ocelot Pride, and kill loot with Accursed Marauder, knocking me down to 10. I surveil with an Iset land and send an Explorer to the graveyard before casting Part the Water Veil again. Luckily, a top deck Misium Mortar saves the day, wiping the board while keeping mana drain up. I counter their Golden Psychic, and they put Lurrus into their hand before passing the turn. I replay loot, attack, and post-combat plan to cast Time Warp, but I misclick and draw 3 cards instead. Now I have to pass the turn, hoping they don't return Marauder. As expected, they cast a reanimation spell, but instead of Marauder, they bring back another vampire. Exactly the kind of mistake I love to see. Now I can untap. Hit the right ability this time. Cast Tassa, follow up with Time Warp, and play Micromancer to fetch a gamble. This is huge because I can now gamble into Timeless Witness, which returns Time Warp. Tassa blinks the Witness returns Time Warp, and as expected, my opponent understands what's coming and scoops.